Yo, what's going on? It's the NOC, the Nerds of Color. And we are back with another ShoPowSho. It's your boy, Kuya P, aka Patrick Michael Strange, the Adobro, the Babinka boy, the leader of the Holla Holla homies in the Sinner gang. And today I'm missing the amazing Ates. Unfortunately, Kataphorric and Viva Valentina couldn't make it. They're handling business. As you know from the last podcast, Kat is now in Japan teaching. And once her schedule clears up, she will be joining me and Tina. And Tina is handling business with a stuffy spa, putting smiles on people's faces as she rebuilds everybody's classic stuffed animal to just give you that joy that you grew up with from your childhood. So busily handling business all over the place with our team, but I am here to bring you some more ShoPowSho. And today I have another amazing ShoPowSho going international today, people, with Bles Chavez-Bernstein. She's a Filipina amazing soprano, opera singer, a poet, an author. She's a lot of things. And we're going to learn all about her journey, what took her to Germany, what took her all over the world, doing the amazing things that she's done. I'm going to go ahead and pull her up on the screen. Let's have some fun with the amazing, and you can unmute Bles Chavez-Bernstein. There she is. Air horns are going off right now, Bles. You don't hear it because I didn't want to deafen you, but they're going off in post. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, and I really thank you for having me, Kuya P.
Oh, truly a pleasure. This is so amazing. And thank you to Kristen Spears, I believe. Yes, the amazing Kristen Spears, who put this all together. Yes. I really love that more people are seeing and hearing the show because we're all about celebrating our people, and you are one of those amazing representatives of our people. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
No worries.
Bles calls herself the singing poet. Bles started to show her love of the arts at the age of 5. She wrote her first sonnet at 12. Her first collection of poems are contained in her book, Without Rhyme. In the last decade, proceeds from Bles's performances have supported advocacies for women and children worldwide. Bles intends to continue nourishing souls through poetry and music for the rest of her life.
Let's kick it off. Again, as I kind of told you before we got started, it's all about showing love and light to the amazing representatives of our people in the culture in whatever field of industry they're doing. But before we get into your personal journey and what got you into doing what you do, we like to show love and light to those of us that came before us. So like say your mother and father, their love story, if you know that, or any other ancestors that imparted some of what they went through and gone through, that maybe give us some inklings of that manifested within you. So like if some of them were prior singers or writers or anything like that. So if we can take it back to the beginning, can you tell us a little bit about some of those that came before we dive into your history?
Of course. Actually, it's interesting that you mentioned that, and thank you for reminding me. So my book, the recently published book, In the Typhoon Side, you probably have read about it because Christine might have sent you some materials, right, about my books. This is actually my first nonfiction, and it's my childhood memoir that I started at the age of 3.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
All the way to the most remote part of my memory. As a 3-year-old, and I ended it on the last page of the book. Not actually the last page, is the last page of the main story. I ended it when I was 22 years old, when I left the country. So it's a very young memoir, a childhood memoir, all the way to the coming of age as a young adult at 22. But in the book, I forgot which chapter it is, maybe chapter 6 or 7. I did include flashbacks so that I could include all those people, my ancestors, my grandparents, my parents during the war, the Second World War. One of the might be the strongest influence in my life of where I am today and who I am today would probably be my father. He's deceased. He died young. He was a guerrilla at the age of, he was a teenager when he was a guerrilla because he idolized his older brother. And because he was adopted, he was the only child who was adopted to a well-off relative since my grandparents were really poor. So he couldn't wait to reunite with his older brother, who was the guerrilla. So he wanted to emulate him. And so they did a lot of, crawling in the grass and hiding in the mountains, during the Japanese time. My mother, on the other hand, I think she was only 12 or 13 when the Japanese occupied the Philippines. So I really included how, the backdrop was the Second World War and how they met right after the war and when I was born.
Awesome.
Yeah. So my first chapter actually is very significant in the part of my journey because that's where the first time and in the first chapter there was some kind of scandal there. So it's a very strong plot already in the first chapter of In the Siphon's Eye. It's significant enough in my journey because it's the first time we were given a chance as a family. My father, my mother, and myself as a 3-year-old. So that's kind of like the background of my book, In the Typhoon's Eye, and my beginnings. And the original idea is actually, I just wanted to have something to leave to my grown children and my grandchildren. And I really wanted to let them know what my beginnings were. Because even as my close friends, after they read the book, they would always tell me, Bles, we thought we knew you. This is incredible story. We would never imagine that this was your childhood and this is who you are now.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of, and the other reason is because when I visited after being in the States for about 10 years, when I visited my hometown, it's a small town. It used to be a barrio when I was a little girl, then it became a town. It's still a town now, it's not a city. It seems to me that I observed everyone there, the neighborhood, the ways of the people. I thought what I remember then as a little girl growing up in that place were all fading. So there was the drive inside of me that I said, I need to record what I remember while I still remember it, because this is the culture where I grew up in.
Yeah.
The ways of the people, how people interacted, a lot of local color, how people eat, what do the poor people eat, what did the people who were a little bit more well-off than the others, what were their ways? I mean, there was a divide, which I observed it as a little girl, especially in the hometown of my mother, that during a dance in a town fiesta, I actually remember that the seats designated for the poorer people were totally arranged apart from the seats of the so-called elite, the people who belong to like well-off families.
Yeah.
And when I remembered now, I said, oh my gosh, there was such a thing that existed even then.
Yeah.
And those were what, in the 60s, when I was a little girl.
Wow.
So that's a little bit part of my book. And it just triggered in me the memory when you mentioned people that came before us. So
well, that's kind of like the tone of this interview. And actually, just to kind of, give you some more background, that's kind of like how this interview, ShoPowSho kind of works, is we're going to kind of get that firsthand experience as we go back into the past and then taking us into the present with what you're doing. And I love now and knowing that you have this book that can just provide a little bit more insight into that. And so like, as we go along this, I will encourage everyone to pick up Bles's book. We'll have it in the links in the description as well. So that way you can get a copy and get even more detail on everything that Bles is going to touch upon. But, and there we go. Let me pull the screen up. There we go. You can see it in the Typhoon's Eye. I love it. Everybody go cop that book as you're watching this. Maybe pause it, order that book so you can learn about Bles's story. But yeah, the lead off question is to is to kind of find out if maybe if those prior generation had some of the talent that you now have. Are you aware of, like, did your mother and father, were they singers? Were they poets? Or did they write? Did you inherit any of that?
The poetry, I'm not very sure, but maybe I would guess that it was my mom. But what I'm sure about was that my mom was always champion in singing competitions.
Love it. So you did get a little bit of it then.
Yes, I got it. But this is the interesting thing. When I asked my mom, I said, Mom, how come you never encouraged me when I was very young, when I was a very young girl? How come you never paid attention to me or encouraged me to sing? I know she trained me. She trained me to deliver a Tagalog monologue, very dramatic. She taught me how to cry. When I was 5 years old, I won first place in a radio children's hour contest.
Wow.
Because she trained me to I remember the title, Ang Puso ng Ina. And she told me, you gotta let your tear drop when you say the last line. Because the last line, I remember now, said, Mahal kong anak. Oh, it was very graphic, okay? In Tagalog, I remember a couple of lines. I think it was like at the end of the monologue, the mother was dead, but her heart continued to live and rolled over. But her son kind of ignored her when she was alive. So the heart of the mother still expressed to her son, are you okay in your life, or something like that? But it was in Tagalog, even though the heart was the only one living, and the heart rolled over on the ground or something. And my mom told me, you gotta cry at the end of that line. You gotta cry. So I guess that's why there's a reason why I won the contest.
So your mother was a performer then? As you said, I'm assuming it wanted you to kind of carry that on as a child.
So she was so. She was so passionate about music, about singing, about music, but her family was so poor, and she felt a little bit like maybe regretful that she didn't have a chance to be trained formally.
Yeah. And
so she wanted to kind of encourage all her kids who had a talent in music to just push. She kept pushing us, and she worked so hard. She worked like, I don't know, 10, 12 hours a day when we were in school.
What did she do?
She was just a simple clerk employed in a government agency. She wanted to finish college, but as the kids, we were all born like every 2 years or every 3 years, and there were 7 of us, and she felt like she didn't achieve her dream in education. So she pushed us so much to be educated because she said, I never had that chance. I remember her. I can still hear her voice, telling us.
Yeah.
But on the singing part, when I asked her, I said, why didn't you encourage me to sing? I know you trained me how to perform, but she said, oh, because your voice was not good when you were a young girl.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's what she told me. And then she said, and now that you're an adult and I saw you go to the to be trained for classical singing, and you went for to pursue music, music studies, vocal performance major in a conservatory. She said, I never in my life imagined you would be the one to take it seriously.
Oh, wow.
That's what she told me. But she said, your voice was not really special.
Oh my gosh.
Can you believe that?
We got to talk about that. We're going to get into, I need to talk. I need to take that on a little bit more. What about your father? Do you know what was he into and how they met?
Oh yeah, they met.
And whereabouts in the Philippines are you? Did you grow up? Where are you from initially in the Philippines?
Where in the Philippines?
Yeah.
I'm from the Bicol region.
Okay.
Yeah, the people who love to eat spicy food.
I love it.
Did you know that?
No, that's why I'm doing this show, is to learn more. I don't speak Tagalog. I'm trying to learn more. I grew up as a Philam here in the States. And this is part of my journey now is I whenever I hear anything about our culture, I eat it up. That's what I want, because unfortunately I didn't grow up there. I don't speak the language, but I love us. I love our people so much. And that's part of why I do this show, is to learn and show love and light to our people. So,
I love it. I love your passion. I really do. And so that's good. I think you should really read my nonfiction, my memoir, because it's like I splashed local colors on almost every page. Like what people do at the eve of Easter, the Easter Eve, the rehearsals of the Angelitas, have this Angelitas that I in detail, I describe how these Angelitas were hoisted to like a 3-story tall tower.
Okay.
To dramatize and to reenact the resurrection.
Yeah.
So on all the rehearsals happened the evening before. Early in the morning, the next morning would be Easter Sunday, right? So at 5 o'clock in the morning before sunrise, this Angelitas, maybe 20 of them, but there's a main Angelita in the middle. And it's all done in ruffles. We inherited that from the Spanish. Yeah. The Spanish customs and traditions. So 5 o'clock before sunrise, there's this long procession in every town, every city. And the main angel, which every little girl in the town clamor for that position, okay? But you gotta win the ruffles. It's a little bit, there's different sides to it, okay? But it's a beautiful celebration, festivity. So the main angel will be lowered down from the tower. Of course, it's like a bamboo pole. It's a very long bamboo pole, and they make sure that it's secure, no accident happens, nobody will be dropped to the ground. So they lower down the little angel. When the Virgin Mary in all black, covered in black veil, when she's lowered down, she meets the Virgin Mary who is being led in the procession and lifts that black veil. She lifts that black veil off her face from the statue of the Blessed Virgin. In detail, I described it in the book because I don't want to give too much away in the book, because my father is, I think, the main character besides myself in my book.
Yeah.
My father wouldn't let us out of the house, and I could smell the food vendors, they're cooking peanuts and puto and all this commotion, we were at the corner lot facing the church, but we would just be peeking through the windows because we're not allowed to go and mingle with the crowd. And I thought, oh my gosh, what I missed.
Yeah.
So there was like kind of two sides to my world as a young girl. And it's very picturesque, I think. I added a lot of imagery. It's like on every page.
Wow.
Not only on the culture, the imagery of the culture, the customs of the people, but also the interaction in our family and what happened, why we were treated the way we were treated as young children. So there's some dark parts.
Yeah.
I have to tell the truth.
Yes.
So there's some dark parts here in my story, but I guess every journey has that.
Oh, yeah. And you have to come face to face with that in order to become you as a person, confront it, face it, and because then it'll always be there if you don't meet it at its face.
Exactly.
No, I love that. So what did your father do? We talked a little bit what your mother did. What
I
did
think. My father was also employed as a clerk.
Okay.
Because he didn't finish college. I think he only had
Did they work together?
No, you know that post Second World War, in my father's generation, my mother's generation, they were young adults when they started high school because they were disrupted for 3-4 years, but whatever. I think the Second World War ended, I think, 1945. So they met around that year. I recorded in the book because I made sure that my dates were realistic and to the point and, has to be consistent.
Did you keep a journal as a kid?
No.
Okay. You were just able to recall it. Okay. Yeah.
I recall, and sometimes I would confirm it. If I was in doubt about anything, I would confirm with my sister next to me. Gotcha. So the stories, I put them together. The stories that I heard from my aunts, from my grandma, from my uncles. So I just kind of put them all together, and all the stories that my mom told me. Wow. I made the scene alive out from the stories that I heard. So I just put them together. Even the flashback said, so my daughters asked me when I was working on the book, so Mom, you have flashbacks? I said, of course. It's so important how my parents, how your grandparents met. Yeah. Yeah, but you were not alive then yet. I said, hey, I'm a writer. Yeah. I'll write from the stories that I heard.
No, I love this. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to read this book and dive in and just learn more. Because that's why I took on this journey to do this ShoPowSho is to, as a filmmaker, I want to bring our stories to the screen. I have a Lapu Lapu script that I'm shopping around, and I have a couple of other amazing film friends who have their journeys I want to capture and kind of turn into films. And so I could see this becoming a film, it just sounds
so
amazing.
I will.
Let's manifest it. Let's manifest it right now.
Yes, let's do it. I'll also send you when I have the chance. When I get the chance, I'll send you the book trailer that's made by. It was made for me by a young. I sent him my the finished manuscript, but the book was already published, of course. Since he didn't have the money to order from Amazon and have it shipped to the Philippines all the way. He's a young filmmaker, had won awards in the Philippines. He's struggling. And I told them, can you, in your own idea, interpretation, make a book trailer for me and cast real people, cast a real. And I gave him a little bit of, suggestion, like, what kind of girl, what's the appearance of the girl and all the kind of thing, and where you should do it, do it in a hilly part, because that's where I grew up as my remotest memory. We were in a small barrio on the slope of Mount Isarog and in between hills. That's where I remember our little hut.
Yeah.
That's where I started, remembering my childhood. So he made me this book trailer that made people think, when I posted it on my social media page, people thought that the whole book was already in film. They thought it was a trailer. It was a trailer for a film. I said, no, it's a book trailer. So anyway, I'll send it to you. So it's also on my page, I think.
Okay. So you know what?
Let's send it to you.
So everybody that's watching this right now, as I'm speaking, as we're doing this, and you see we're recording this interview, but in just a second, in the miracle of editing, because I will be editing this interview, I'm going to insert the trailer right now. So you're all going to watch the trailer right now. So here we go. Here's the trailer for Bles's book. Here we go right now. Boom, there we go. There's the trailer for Bles's book. You've just watched it. We just talked about how it came together. Bles, we just shared it. The miracle of editing. Thank you for sending that to me. And now there it is. So everybody got a chance to see it. Thank you. So let's talk about this again. So again, I'm ready to dive into this book and learn more. But if we could just get some firsthand experience, because that's what this whole ShoPowSho is all about, is talking about your journey and bringing it to the people. But if they want more detailed information, they can check out the book and buy that book right now. Get Bles's book. So
my book is internationally marketed by
Yes.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and every online bookstore in any country, all countries where Amazon is marketing their stuff.
there you go.
Their merchandise, yeah.
So you can get it, y'all. There's no excuse. Go get that book. All right. So Bles, you told us a little bit about your mother. You told us about your father.
Yes.
So now you're growing up, and your book details this more. But if we could just get a little bit more, firsthand experience through the show right now. Growing up, as you said in the book, there's been some difficult journeys, and you've covered that. But if you could just give us some firsthand, and you kind of shared earlier, as you said with your mom, she didn't exactly think you were, the best singer or whatever. Was that difficult? And going back to that story, and like you said, some of it's a dark side. Now the world knows you're an amazing singer, but was that difficult thinking back then? How your mom didn't exactly encourage it? Well, she encouraged you to perform, but then there was just kind of like that, just to make those statements, as you said, that she didn't think you were the best. Did that just give you the fire? Like, I'm going to prove you wrong, Mom. What can you just tell us, put us back into that headspace when you were a young kid, and also telling us, what were you into? Were you not into the music, but then your mom pushed you into it because of just wanting to encourage that in you? Can you just give us a little bit about your youth?
When I was in elementary school, I was always picked to be the contestant for singing, for oration. I mean, dancing. I was always part of a dance group. But my parents, not so much my mom, but my dad, of course, my mom would always follow what my dad wanted because he was the ruler. He was the king in the house. He was very dominant, and what he said went. It had to be followed. My dad discouraged, or for some reason, now that when I became an adult, I look back and analyzed his attitude. And I thought, well, I think he had so much fear about something that he didn't encourage me to perform. So I kept it a secret whenever I was involved in extracurricular activities. I think he was kind of proud inside, but he didn't want me to do that. He said, just pay attention to academics. So even as I went to high school, I was always involved in the arts, performing arts.
So it was your passion, not just impressed upon you by your mom. Okay.
Yeah, it's my passion. And it's my passion. If my mom didn't really encourage me that much, she only told me her thoughts, the reasoning why she didn't encourage me, because she said, I didn't really hear your voice special, as a special. She told me that when I was already a big adult, so it didn't really affect me at the time. I just kind of went for what I wanted. I was very passionate as a young girl to be involved in the arts and performance, and also excel in academics. I mean, name it. I was a nerd.
I love it. I
was a nerd.
Yeah.
So I was very active in school, but I think the dark cloud that loomed over me, as I remember, if I recall, the years of my childhood, elementary, high school, the dark cloud was always my dad. He had a way about him. He had a very extreme way of disciplining us. And after I've educated myself and went into specializing in mental health, and as a registered nurse, I worked for over 40 years in the States as a nurse because my parents forced me to be a nurse because they wanted me to go to America. Because I was the oldest. I am the oldest. And after having that knowledge and having interacted with all my clients, my patients, I really believe that my dad must have PTSD. So, and I think it affected the upbringing that we had and the way he raised us and the way he treated us. But there's a lot of sad chapters here.
Yeah.
That people will read, but I had to include everything because I want the story to be a whole story.
Yes.
And to be honest.
It's unfortunate, but I think it just makes it so relatable and will help people feel seen because we've all had these moments. I think we all know struggle and have to go struggle to improve and know, at least for me, like I've admitted on the show, I'm prior military. I was an actor before I went into the military, but then, I chose to go military route. And when I was in the military, I got so depressed because I had all these scholarships for my writing, my music, but it came to a crossroads where I nearly committed suicide. And it was at that moment that I knew I don't ever want to get to that low place again. But it's because of that struggle that I don't take things for granted anymore. You know what I'm saying? And you allow that moment to push you to greater heights and to strive more. So no, and it's sad, but it's the honest truth that I think the majority of us all go through, to realize our full potential, if you will. So thank you for sharing that. I commend you. It's brave of you. And it's I think it's it's just a character trait that I think when we're more open and honest about ourselves, then people can just really see the real you. Because, you know, there's a lot of facade and fakeness that is inhabiting this entertainment industry. And from me to you, I appreciate the people that are willing to bare their soul, because then you get a greater appreciation and you know you're getting, you know, an honest feedback or just a feeling and a vibe. So thank you, Bles.
You're welcome.
No, definitely. So we've talked about the parents growing up. And again, everybody pick up her book, y'all. It's going to be in the comments below how you can scoop it up so you can just get more of this detail. So growing up in the Philippines with your love for it, the arts, somewhat encouraged by your mom, reluctantly from your father. Were you into anything else besides the arts? Can you tell us a little bit more about just growing up in the Philippines? And then also maybe just, as you said, and you've touched upon it a little bit, and I know we can hear more about it in the book, but just the difference. When I asked my mom about growing up in the Philippines, and it shocks me because as I stated to you earlier, I want to know about our history and our culture, but I was surprised to hear for her, because of the colonization of the states in the Philippines, the history that she was taught was American history. She really didn't get, you know, other than like the bigger representatives like Jose Rizal, you know, there's certain people that she did get, but most of the history that she was taught was, you know, American history. What was that like for you? Did you like feel a hunger to learn more about our culture, or was it more so secondhand from aunties and uncles that would tell you, you know, about Lapu Lapu or just anything outside of this colonized mindset of America that kind of took over, or how do you feel about that?
I think when I was in the elementary, I remember the teacher taught us Philippine history.
Okay.
And then a little bit of the Asian history in high school. But we went on and on. And then when I went to college, it was a required reading to read the two books of Jose Rizal that stirred up the revolution against the Spaniards.
Yeah.
The No Limit Tangere and El Filibusterismo. They were required readings. So awesome. That's my knowledge of what Philippine history was. And then, of course, in the later years after the Spaniards, I think the Spanish-American War, that's how the U.S., you know, bought us. U.S. bought us for $50.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was their, I think it was their, what do you call this? It's a winning item because the U.S. won the war. So they took over the Philippines. And that's how, you know, we started having the American system of education and American books.
Yeah.
And that's why English became our second language.
Yeah.
To the first is Filipino, of course, but they were all principal subjects in high school: Filipino grammar, Filipino literature, panitikan, balarila is grammar, and English literature as well. And that's very significant for me because at 12 years old, I remember I enrolled in high school, first year. That's where I met the person who inspired me for the first time, who made me aware that I was a poet. When she introduced William Shakespeare, I was in awe. I couldn't stop writing sonnets. I just kept writing sonnets.
Wow.
After I get exposed to his work. And she told me, I said, when I reunited with her 40 years later, I said, Mom, how did you know that I was a poet? You were always challenging me. You asked me to write this. You got me books that were not even required. She would bring me books like the classics, like Mark Twain's Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, Pollyanna. I mean, all the classics. I said, Mom, you're giving me a lot of books, and there's also the books that are assigned. She said, you can read them all. You must read them all. So when I asked her later, as an adult, 40 years later, I said, Mom, why did you keep pushing me? She said, Bles, I saw it in your eyes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was always there.
I love that.
That's how she told me. That's how she expressed herself to me. She said, and you challenged me to be the best teacher I could be by being in my class. So it was some kind of bond that we have that even now, she just turned 80 years old and we're still in touch because I included her in my first book, poetry book. I really especially mentioned her. About how she inspired me. Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful. So she's obviously one of the biggest influences in your life. Can you?
One of the biggest influences as an artist.
I love that. So can we speak on the influences that made you fall in love with that? Again, so as we said earlier, that's, she kind of prodded you a little bit at the beginning, very early on in life, but then it was something that you wanted for yourself and that you pursued. Oh, yes. And even further in it later on down in the road, even though, and we're going to touch upon that, how you went into nursing, which I would assume is like how all Filipino parents, arts is cool, but you need to get a job for, yes. for a living. Right. So we're going to touch upon that in a little bit, but again, as we said, what was it that, okay, she pushed you a little bit as a kid, but then you wanted it for your own journey as you grew older as a teen into, teenage and in high school. What made you want to become a singer, a writer, a poet? What are some of the early influences of Bles Chavez?
Okay. As far as singing is concerned, I was picked when I was, I think, senior high school. Yes, 4th year. There were only 4 years in high school there and the curriculum. Now I think I heard they changed the curriculum there in the Philippines. Now it's 6. But during my time, we were in high school only for 4 years. So I was about 14, I think, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, about 14, between 14 and 15. I was chosen to represent my school in this really huge competition, literary competition, as the first vocal solo singing. And so we were in the small town. Our high school was called St. Catherine Labouré School, it was a satellite school from the main campus in Naga City, which is a nearby city in the province. The main campus is called Colegio de Santa Isabel, which years later, now it's called Universidad de Santa Isabel. So it has grown into a university. So this one day, the Mother Superior, I grew up, by the way, in high school and college. I was in a Catholic school that was run by nuns, Daughters of Charity. That was the order. So one day, after I was told by my teacher that I was going to represent the school in this huge, it was regional level. So the whole of Bicol region. So each region is composed of provinces, right? And its provinces composed of towns, and the towns have barrios. Those are the units, what we call the units there. Mm-hmm. And in America, we will have county and then the city and all this. It's a little different. So it was all the competition among all Catholic schools and the whole of Bicol region, which everybody will meet in one city. So I was the one to represent our school. One day, this nun, she was kind of tall and big, and she came to the school and she said, I will be your trainer. So I just obeyed because I love singing. So when she opened her mouth, I'll never forget this. She opened her mouth, and the first time I heard her voice, I did not blink, I did not breathe. I was so impressed because I thought, where is that sound coming from? She was an opera singer.
Mm.
So ever since I was exposed to that experience, I never wanted to sing any other genre except classical.
Wow.
It was just so different. It was somewhere else. It was from another place. It wasn't from the throat. It was like her whole body was involved.
Yeah.
Without the body moving. But it was coming from like down deep there. Like I imagine it like from the soul, from the core. And then the voice comes out. And I thought, oh my gosh, I want to sing like her. I want to sing like her, like in my mind, you know. So that was the beginning of the singing journey.
I love that. That's
beautiful.
But
I could never do it because not only we were struggling financially, I was the eldest of 7 siblings, 7 children. I could not pursue it. There was no money to spend to pursue voice lessons and training. I also wanted to dance, so I'm a total performer. I wanted to dance, but I could never, I was jealous, not jealous in a way negatively, but I admired my classmates who took ballet lessons. I would just be looking at them and I said, oh, I wish I could dance like they do, you know, but there was no money. So, so everything was focused on academics, which I did anyway, because I enjoyed the classroom. I enjoyed learning new things. I enjoyed languages. I enjoyed philosophy. I enjoyed most of the subjects, the sciences. And if you ask me how I was able to tackle nursing, I cannot tell you how.
Yeah.
I think I just did because I couldn't say no.
Did that happen when you went to college, I would assume, or university?
College, yes.
Okay.
But the first 2 years, you had to first complete all the sciences. Then the proper, nursing proper would start on the 3rd year because we were required to study 5 years to get your degree in nursing, at least in that university. Other schools didn't require you to stay for 5 years, but they said, no, you have to stay 5 years in college to finish all the requirements. Besides, when you graduate, and with our curriculum here, they told us that you're also qualified to be a clinical instructor, which I did for a while before I went to the United States. So
after university.
In this particular university run by the nuns.
Okay. Got you. And then you continued education when you came to America?
No, when I came to the United States, it depends on which school you went, but the system in the States, I learned at the time that when you show them your transcript of records, they happen to credit all my academics, all my studies, from this particular school. They receive it directly from the school and they credited everything. And all I had to do, which is not just, all I had to do is pass the state boards.
Oh, wow.
Which I did. So otherwise I couldn't work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, before we get to the States, then going back to before you come to America, you weren't able to, because of finances, get professional training to sing as a performer or dancer. So obviously academics was pushed. But before the nursing was chosen, was that what you wanted to do, or was that
no?
So
oh my gosh,
how did it become nursing instead of maybe some other kind of trade? Is it who influenced that? Would you say your dad?
My dad, it was a command. I had no choice, but I thought maybe weeks before I enrolled in college, I could still persuade him, but it's all in the book, the process.
Gotcha.
And I thought my world crushed when he finally.
So what was your aspiration? If he didn't influence you to go that route, what did you? obviously, again, if finances were there, you wanted to, learn how to dance and sing. But say if you had to just keep it on the academic route, if he didn't push nursing, what other trade do you think you would have done?
Oh, I would have studied somewhere, maybe fine arts, or because I also draw, I also paint.
Oh, wow.
You're
a multi-hyphenate. You are so talented. I love it.
I think it's all the burning desire inside was like suppressed for so many years.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So, so this book, there's a little story behind this drawing. I ended up painting it myself, even though I didn't hold my brush for 30 years. I was very nervous. I didn't expect that I could do it again, because I hired a young artist and he didn't make it to the deadline. The pandemic broke out, but I said, I cannot wait because my manuscript was ready. So I felt like I shouldn't waste any time. When the manuscript was ready, edited so many times and critiqued and everything, I said, no, my publisher was waiting. And I said, okay, I'm just going to draw. I'm just going to draw my own cover. Because I gave him my vision, and he agreed, but he had some kind of family problem and he couldn't make it to the deadline. And so I guess it's meant to be. Yeah. So, but I wanted maybe fine arts or somewhere in the line of languages. Maybe major in English, but not exactly to be an educator. I wanted to write. I always wanted to write. So it's crazy.
Okay. So you got into nursing. You did it some miraculously. You found
miraculously.
You're somehow able to connect with it and get through it. And
it's like pretending.
Yeah.
You know the cliche, fake it till you make it.
Oh yeah.
I must have done that without knowing that I was doing that.
Yeah.
Without being aware. Just maybe it was my survival skill.
Yeah. Madrigma spirit,
Mandirigma.
Yes. Yes. That's the spirit. I've known. So you are another one of those amazing representatives. I had recently Carolyn Faye. She's an amazing singer, actress. She's the Lola on Blue's Clues. And she spoke on that about just so many amazing Filipino women that I've had in my life and that we've had on the show. And you are now another one of those amazing warrior Filipino women that just continue to strive. And I love you all so very much. I would not be here if not for so many amazing Philippine women like yourself.
Wow.
So, all right. So you're in school. What was the decision to come to America? So you went to nursing. That was the route. Now coming to America. Why that?
Because my father's reasoning why he took me by the hand, he enrolled me in that university to take up nursing, because he told me, when you finish nursing, you go to America. And that's how I ended the book, is the scene at the airport.
Okay.
Yeah. So at 22, I landed in Miami Beach, Florida.
Okay.
At 22.
All right.
Yeah.
So here's where book 2 starts. Let's get a little bit of insight, because I don't know if you're gonna write it, but let's get this journey, because I want to get to how you become a singer and the person that you are now.
Okay.
Walk us from there now. Like, I don't know if you started on the second book yet, but let's go there.
You're jumping. You're jumping. You wanna see the future of the book already. Well, what happened? So I went to America and I told my parents, maybe 2 to 3 years, I will be sending money every month, and I did that. What happened is that I left my fiance behind.
Oh, hold up. Whoa, wait a minute. Stop.
Okay.
But a fiance. Oh my gosh.
My first love.
Oh, I'm crying.
That's 22.
What was that like?
We couldn't even hug each other at the airport. My parents sent me off. My father and mother, he was just standing, somewhere there on one corner. And we just waved at each other. And when my flight was being announced, I just walk away.
Oh,
that's the last page of the story. That's why a lot of people are asking, what happened in America? Because they know me now, who I am. A lot of my friends are, what happened when you came to America? Oh my God, there's so much stories. Actually, I promised my parents I would be there 2 to 3 years. Well, I didn't even make it to two years. So I felt at the time it was the burden of guilt, because for me, even as a young girl, when I said I was going to do something, I was always committed. I was a nerd. If I committed to something, I would do it. It bothered me if I couldn't do it. So I didn't make it to even 2 years. It was probably maybe 1.5, but I saved money. And all my savings I gave to my parents when I came home, just to appease them, because I felt the burden of guilt when I didn't make it to 2 to 3 years. Mm. Because what happened, why I decided to go home at that point. My fiance was writing me every single day. I mean, when I say every single day, literally dropping at the post office the letter. We didn't have emails at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. It was the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay. So every day I would get an email, and then not email, I'm sorry, a letter, slow mail, snail mail. Then as the letters kept coming, the later part, maybe through almost 1.5 years, he kept asking me, can you come home now? Can you come home now? I want us to get married. And then when I couldn't decide yet, his parents started writing me too. His parents. So I felt like, oh my gosh, I need to really go home. And what attracted me to that family, I'm saying that maybe it was love at first sight, and it's my first love. And knowing myself that before I met him, it was very hard for me to be attracted to any guy. And I didn't know why. Mm-hmm. As a teenager, I never had a boyfriend. Then I went to college, never had a boyfriend. And he was actually like my first real boyfriend. I had some friendly guy, also our neighbor, before him, but it was almost like I totally abandoned that person when I met him. I think what attracted me is I saw him in his home with his parents, and it was like total attraction, including looking at his parents, how they love each other, how affectionate they were. And it's just total opposite of where my home was. And I think that's what pulled me in. Yeah. I wanted that. It's like, that's the kind of home, that's the kind of partner I want to have in my life, because I want to not repeat what I had as a young child. Because my home as a child was not really a happy home.
Yeah.
So it was tumultuous. It was a lot of turmoil. There were happy times, there were later moments, but it was a dark cloud looming over me all the time.
Yeah.
So
you're back because you couldn't,
So I came back, I got married.
So
I gave him all the money, all the savings that I had for the whole 1.5 years.
Parents.
To my parents.
But you married your sweetheart or no? Or
I married him. I went home. I got married.
Yeah.
I left my work. I was in Miami Beach.
Yeah.
One of the best hospitals ever in South Florida, Mount Sinai Medical Center. Thank God I ended up there, because I could have ended up in any other, working condition, any other place. I've heard not so good stories about other employees that were sent by agencies in Manila. And I had a very good agent that took care of us.
Yeah.
So I went home. I had 2 kids while I was home. I was home for at least 2.5 years, maybe almost 3 at the time. And then there's a lot of struggle there. And it's not the marriage that I wanted. It's not exactly what I was hoping to have. We had a lot of struggles.
Yeah.
I was in this small town, and the hometown of my deceased husband. He's deceased, the father of my children. And I didn't have the life that
So he passed.
That was meant for me.
So you had kids, and then something happened.
Yeah, I was just a mother. Not that motherhood is just, but
yeah,
I was functioning as a mother, as a housewife. I didn't have social life.
Yeah.
And then we were struggling also financially.
Yeah.
So things were not smooth. And the biggest sacrifice I ever did in my life was at that point when I had to leave my 6-month-old baby.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's hard to describe, but it's in the book. It's in the epilogue, but I think I will discuss this in detail on the sequel.
Gotcha.
Because it deserves to be given maybe a chapter or something.
Well, I'm still rocked that you left for 2 years, you came back, you married your childhood sweetheart, you're there, right. You have a couple of kids, but then he passes away. I'm sure that
not yet.
Not yet. And then
not yet.
That's what I'm kind of confused about.
Okay. Oh yes, no, we lived there in that small town, and we're struggling. And I just thought, well, either now or never. I saw like
felt the desire to go back to America
while I was there with my 2, my toddler and my infant, my newborn.
Yeah.
So I had a vision, and I said, I have to do something about the situation. It's now or never.
Yeah.
So I wrote a handwritten note to my previous employer. Can you believe that?
Wow. Were you working when you came back?
No, I was not.
You weren't
working.
Even working. So you're like.
I was not working.
Wow.
No, I was not working. So it was a life that it didn't sit right on me.
Yeah.
In me.
It's all making sense now.
Yeah, it's starting to make sense to you. It's probably depression. It's probably the postpartum depression, which I didn't know at the time. I had a little bit of anorexia. I was losing weight. I would be 100 pounds. I was down to 86.
Ugh.
And my friends, when they saw me when I was 86, they couldn't recognize me. So it was I guess a combination of everything, hormonal, condition, everything, when you have babies and as a nurse, I felt like I wasn't even a nurse. Like I lost my knowledge in that particular stage of my life. So I mailed a handwritten note to my employer, and I said, I would love to apply again for my previous position if you still need my service. Oh my gosh. I think they wrote me back, but when they wrote me back and acknowledged my letter right away, at the same time, they already sent the visa to Manila. It was that quick, and I did not expect that. I thought I was nursing my baby maybe up to a year when she's 1 year old. But when I counted the months, I said, oh my gosh, this visa is going to expire in such a month. And when I counted, I just had my baby. When I counted it, she was only going to be 6 months old. but I had to leave.
Wow.
I think that was the biggest sacrifice I've ever done for my family. But they thank me even now. They thank me, Mom, thank God you brought us to the States, because if we stayed there, I don't know what happened to us. They're all career people, my three children. And so when I came, there was a miracle that happened when I went back. And maybe I'll hold that for the next book, or do you want me to?
Well, I want to go get on this journey to where you're at. You if you want to save certain elements for the book and not give too much away now, but just carrying us onward to to your story America. Now and
okay. So when I went back, of course, it's like deja vu. Oh my God, a real deja vu. Because when I was single, I was 22 when I first arrived there. I was very naive. I mean, at 22, I would probably compare it to like maybe a 14-year-old in the States. I was very naive, and I didn't know anything about life. So I went back and left my two kids, my 6-month-old baby and my 1.5-year-old, or maybe a little over a year old son, my oldest, on a working visa again. So when I left, I told my husband then was asking me, when are you going to come home? When are we going to see each other again? I said, I really don't know. I'm on a working visa. So, but despite that, I was determined, because somehow something in my vision, it was telling me it's either you do this now or never.
Yeah.
It was like a crossroad. It was it was one of those crossroads. Not happy, struggling. I look at my two babies, they need to be provided for. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And their future, I want to ensure the future. And my husband then needed help. Yeah. Because he had a business and everything. It was not just taking off to the fullest, Yeah. So, and you know how it is in the province. I mean, he had collectibles everywhere, but it was hard. Yeah. It's hard. Our system there is not sophisticated enough that, customers they're not answerable to him. Even if you try to collect from them, if they won't give you anything, what are you going to do? Yeah. So that was the nature of his business. I was looking at it and I thought, no, I have to do something. Yeah. So when I went back, deja vu, I told you, it's like real, literally deja vu. Yeah. So I went back to the same nurse's dorm. The next morning, I went to the human resources to sign all my papers again. And this lady who was in charge of, she had her own department. She was just one person in that department. And I noticed that her name on the desk said in charge of immigration. I said, I wonder what that is. Then she told me when I was signing all the papers that were handed to me, she said, oh, Zelda, your priority date is up next month. I said, what is priority date? You will be interviewed for your green card. I thought to myself, what? Yeah. What? Then I remembered, I almost forgot about it. I had a roommate before I left to go back home to the Philippines. I had a roommate. She was so responsible, really wonderful person. Very, she also left I think he was 1 year old or 2 year old, left her one and only child when we all first came to Miami Beach. She left her son under the care of her husband. And she told me, we were on night shift, both of us. So every time we came home in the morning, like around 7:30, between 7:30 and 8 o'clock in the morning, she said, Bles, don't sleep yet. We have to go somewhere, downtown Miami. I said, why? Just follow me. So now I remember it all came back to me, all the stacks of papers she asked me to to keep filling them out, complete them, and then we submitted it. It worked.
Yeah.
My priority date had something to do with all those papers that my roommate then asked me to fill out. That was 3 years prior, before I went back to the Philippines.
Wow.
So when I came back, I was about to be interviewed like within a few weeks after I arrived again. So since I didn't know that much about the process, can you imagine my priority date was working while I was in the Philippines? So once you are interviewed, you get your green card, you are given immigrant status, meaning you're not permanent resident, right? I wasn't going to be under the working visa anymore.
Yeah.
That only happens when your employer signs the document and petitions you. So they are the petitioner, somehow like a sponsor. And they did. I guess they signed off on my behalf. So while I was away.
Yeah.
So since I didn't know much about the process, right away I had this wonderful roommate again when I came back. I borrowed money from her because I said, I need to have a lawyer just to make sure everything runs smoothly. It turned out later, when I became more knowledgeable about the immigration process, that I didn't even need a lawyer. All I had to do was show up, and then sign. And at the time, it was only, I think, $800. So I said, I don't have my first check yet. So I told my roommate, my new roommate, but we're still best friends even now. Her name is Yoli. And I said, Yoli, can you loan me some money? Because I don't have my first paycheck yet. And I'll pay you as soon as I can. I need to hire a lawyer. So I hired this supposed to be the best in Miami immigration lawyer. Yeah, I remember. So now all the images came back to me on the day of my interview. He was with me all the time. He escorted me in this we passed by this long, like a mile long line of people, right? All the way outside the door of the building. He said, just follow me. We went to this hallway, walked this hallway, long hallway, go all the way to the end, a small office, and had all the papers ready for me to sign. And then the question that he asked me, only one question he asked me, he said, do you want me to include your husband and your 2 kids? I said, what kind of question is that? Why do you think I am doing all this?
Yeah.
So I said, what do you mean by that? If we include them, I said, that means that they could come. He said, of course, they can come anytime now. That was the miracle, one big miracle of my life.
Wow.
So one after another, it was like telling me, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing.
It was all for a reason.
Yeah. So that was the beginning of the American dream.
Wow. Wow.
My American dream.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to fast forward because I don't want to take away too much from your second book, because I know you're going to capture all that. But I really appreciate you sharing this story of sacrifice, and it just shows just how amazing our Filipina women are. You are so beautiful, so amazing, and just the story of sacrifice to just strive for this life and change. So if we can just then okay, so because you're now in America, maybe to just fast forward it to now to the dream that you achieved the American dream, but now what we hadn't gotten to yet is what we talked about earlier from childhood, the personal dream. You had to sacrifice the personal dream for your father's dream to be educated, to be a nurse. But when I want to now dig into you being able to go for your dream, when did this happen and how you were able to make it a reality? If you can fast forward it a little bit to there. And also, if you don't want to share too much, because you're going to maybe put it in the book as well as probably the finale there. If you could just give
Yeah,
us
yeah.
some of that, just to just further tell your story.
It took decades, actually.
Okay.
That's why I think that's one of the reasons why I keep writing, because I feel I have lived so many lives.
Yeah.
And I need to put it down on paper so I can share the story, not just to my family, to whoever wants to hear the story. And maybe it will resonate with their own stories. And then maybe it will uplift them, or it will make them realize something. So it didn't happen right away, because I've been working as a nurse. Then the kids started to grow up and we needed to put them to school, and not knowing enough about the whole system in America. We thought, since I grew up in a Catholic school and my husband then did also in a Catholic school, we thought we should put our kids in a Catholic school. And that was very expensive. We didn't realize that. But what I did, I volunteered a lot of my services to the parish, and I talked to the parish priest. He became our personal friend. He cut almost like in half the tuition for my 3 children. And so it was very hard to even resist the idea. So I was working on my days off to make both ends meet. Then at the time, my husband just arrived in America. He had to start from zero before he could find a satisfying job. So it was also another journey for him. In the meantime, at least I was working all the time, and even on my days off, I was working double shift. It was a common term in our household. And my kids would ask me, "Mom, are you working double today?" I said, "Yes, I won't see you till tomorrow morning." And I don't know how I did it. I had the energy, the stamina. And at the back of that, I think what really gives me the energy is just the idea that I'm supporting my family. So, and my children, and I'm looking at them that, oh, they're going to have a good future. And, and we were actually happy together. My family, they were all raised in the States. Finally, I petitioned my husband. And at the time, I think my son was almost 3. And my middle child, my daughter, the second one, was 2. And my third one, my youngest child, my daughter, was born in the States. So they adopted the culture right away. I mean, they were there at a very young age. And it was a very happy time for us, all those early years. I was married to my first husband, the father of my children, for 17 years. And we knew each other for 20 years before cancer took him away. So I was a widow at 39. And I think when I was a single parent for 10 years before I met my current husband. But I think in that period of time, that's where my rapid growing happened, personal growth, when I was single.
Yeah.
It was almost reversed, like everything I didn't supposed to experience as a young woman. I was already in my 40s and that time period. That's where my rapid growth happened. And that's where my childhood dreams sneaked up on me. Because at the same time, it was almost like perfect timing for everything, which I didn't really orchestrate. It's just, that's the way it happened.
Yeah.
Also, at the same time, in that period of time, my kids were growing fast. So they were becoming physically independent. They were going to college. And I always found myself alone. And maybe that's why my childhood dream sneaked up on me unexpectedly. And when it did, I did something with it immediately. It was almost, I didn't even think about it twice.
It was freeing, I would assume.
Yeah, it was. I was alone. I was single. My mom was with me though, and at the time, my mom was just supportive of whatever I wanted to do for myself.
Yeah,
I think she empathized with me. She knew I was alone, and I was a widow, and that's actually the first time. I was always kind of a loner when I was a young girl, as a teenager. I already mentioned to you, I was never attracted to boys.
Yeah.
They annoyed me whenever they followed me.
Yeah, we're terrible. We're terrible.
As a teenager, it was a little bit weird. Even my friends told me, Bles, you don't have a boyfriend. I said, no.
Yeah.
And I said, there's none of them. I said, I'm not attracted to anyone. I mean, they annoyed the hell out of me whenever they followed me. Oh, the culture there, I guess. I don't know, maybe I was born at a different time. I'm supposed to be in a different culture. Maybe I'm supposed to be in a different culture. Who knows what it was psychologically. But this time, that period of time where I was supposed to be waking up as a woman and everything happened when I was in my 40s.
Yeah.
That's why now when people ask me, what's your favorite period of life? I said, when I was in my 40s and 50s.
Hell yeah. I love that.
That's when I bloomed. I mean,
that's to write your own story.
Exactly. I was like carving my own path, so to speak. Yeah. No one was telling me. Go ahead.
So let's talk about that, which is where you're at now, and the amazing person that you are now. You never got to get, because you're a singer now. You're an opera singer. Your passion from a child that you got influenced by early on when you saw that amazing woman sing around you. Did you get professional training? How did you go about achieving that dream and reconnecting with that personal dream?
Okay, I was already, let me see, 41, I think, after I went through my grief. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a story by itself, how I handled my grief. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And maybe I leave the details like in the next book.
Yeah.
But I went through grief like about maybe 3 years.
Okay.
It was like in waves. It would come in inexplicable waves of unexpected emotional breakdown. I don't know, depressive moods, anger. But after 3 years, somehow I felt like I was given this calm, like the period of calm. And then I started feeling content being alone. So it was all a process. Then I started feeling happy. I said, this is good. I'm alone. I have my 3 children with me. They started to work like bread and butter jobs so that they can have their own allowance. They can earn their own allowance. And, but major needs and everything, they lived with me. I supplied everything that they needed. They started going to college. My son was lost for a number of years. He had a lot of anger, depression, whatever it was. And I kept bringing him to the best therapist, even though it wasn't covered by insurance. I didn't care. I wanted to pay, because this person was supposed to be the best. I will go to him, to her. It didn't matter to me. I will pay, as a private patient. But when he hit 18 years of age, nobody would tell me anything anymore. That was just another story to my main story. So I was dealing with all this as a single parent, and I didn't know what to do actually at the time. He didn't talk to us for years, but we all lived in the same house. So he had his own journey of grief. And I felt like my 2 daughters, had me as a role model, how to handle grief. But he never had a role model like a man, maybe. And I took him to our priest friend. Nothing worked.
Yeah.
Nothing worked. But that went on for years. And even if he said one word to any of us, all of a sudden, like a question, an ordinary question, my daughters would like celebrate. It's like, oh, mom, he talked to me. Oh, you talked to me today. You know, that's how we experience the all this process of loss.
Yeah.
So everyone had their own individual, unique way of handling the loss and the grief. My mom was with us. My mom was good because she had her own support system, friends, elderly friends that she would go out with. So she had her own life too, aside from being with us. But when the grief lifted, I started joining groups in the community. You know, I started waking up, I guess, something I have never done when I was young, when I was a young woman. That's why I told you my rapid pace of personal growth happened in my 40s.
Yeah.
Late 40s up to early 50s. And nobody knew my age. At work, I started observing and I started becoming aware that men started pursuing me. And I thought, oh my gosh, so this is how dating is. Oh, so this is how courtship is. It's like I wake up all of a sudden to all these things that I was so oblivious to. Mm-hmm. When I was young. I was never attracted to them before. So it was just a different phase of life, you know. And of course, they thought I was just in my 30s.
Yeah.
We never talk about age. You know, somebody would like to take me to the theater. Someone would want to take me to the movies or to a dance, to an event, you know, or dinner. It was so enjoyable. It was like so new to me, you know, in my 40s.
Great.
And those were part of it. So as I woke up, I told you that the childhood dream just sneaked up on me. I dropped everything. I enrolled first in a private music institute just for vocal training.
Okay.
Because I always saw this. My kids are all classically trained in piano when they were elementary, high school. And I took them all over the place. And I always saw this teacher in the community. He trained his students, young students, singing opera and classical style. And so when the right time came, I enrolled in his school, just to learn, really hone my skill. So I did that for maybe 4 years. Then I wasn't satisfied. I said, I need to read music. I need to learn. So he helped me. And I said, I want to audition. I kept driving by this conservatory. It's called New World School of the Arts in Miami. And I said, gosh, what must it be like? What it must be like to be in that school, learning music, learning music history, learning all about the great musicians in the past, and learning how to sing and to perform, you know, formal training.
Yeah.
And being in the classroom. So I told my teacher, right? I said, okay, Les, if that's what you want to do, I'll help you prepare for audition. It was a rigorous audition. There were, I think, 5 professors who's going to be judging you. But I didn't make myself nervous. You know why? Because I thought to myself, they're not going to accept me. Yeah. I just want to experience auditioning. Yeah. That's how brave I was. I don't know. That. Oh my God, I was so brave. And I want to share with you where that courage, I think, was coming from. When I was going through my grieving process, I felt like I was at war with life. So sometimes when I was alone, when I was dealing with my, at the height of my grief, I would tell in my mind, I would tell life, I said, I'll show you. You're not going to win. I will win. This is our competition. So I treated it as that. And I said, for my husband to be taken away as the stage of our life, I was 39, he was only 44. I said, there's nothing worse that could happen to me. There's nothing worse. So I became very brave. Whatever I set my mind into, I just did it instantly. I just did it. I dropped everything. I said, I'm going to enroll. I dropped everything. My teacher helped me audition. It was very specific what I needed to sing. I needed to learn 5 pieces, 1 leader, 1 sacred music, 2 classical, and I forgot what the other one was. But there were like a panel of judges there that's all making notes while you're singing and performing. And they must have liked me because I could not believe it. I was jumping and I was screaming, and my mom was there with me at home when the letter came in my mailbox. And I thought, oh, they're not going to accept me. So I opened the letter and everything. And when I was reading it, I'm accepted. I'm accepted in the program. I was the only, I think the other one was 30, 31 or 32. So there were only 2 adults of us, and everyone else we were surrounded with 18, 17, 18-year-olds.
Wow.
In that program, because it was rigorous. Sometimes there was only 1 schedule because they only pick, and sometimes the class, we were only 8 people there. Mm-hmm. So there was only 1 class every time for every subject, but the focus was performance, musical performance. So I could not believe it. And then I got scholarship. So I said to myself, what? This is in my mind, I was telling myself, this is the American dream. Somebody is paying for my tuition so that I could sing better. I could not believe it. It's like, okay, this is another miracle.
Wow.
How could you not be grateful? It's unbelievable. It's like, it's hard to believe for me. It was very hard to believe.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. I love this.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
The universe owed you, after all of your sacrifice, the universe owed you this moment, and what you provided and gave to everyone else outside of yourself, the sacrifice, it owed you that. And so beautiful. Man, thank you for sharing all that, Bles. That's so.
Yeah, it's there's so many more stories, but I think I need to start working actually seriously on the sequel, because everybody's asking what happened to you in America. I mean,
we all are getting a sneak preview right now, y'all. Y'all are getting the sneak preview.
This is a preview. Here. Yes.
So okay, so you shared that part. Now with the journey getting into the music. Because already we've gone way past our usual time. So thank you for sharing a lot of this. And I know it's getting late for you as well, but let's fast forward it again even more to how you got to Germany, and now you're blossoming into this, you've blossomed into this amazing artist. It took you to Germany now, and now you're writing your history, your personal story, and inspiring another generation, your future generation, and your kin, and that can now read this, and now everybody else now that are going to cop this book on Amazon, like myself. Your story is now an inspiration. But let's fast forward into how it took you to Germany, and now the decision to then share this journey and write this book. And the beautiful person that you are now.
Oh, thank you. And actually, 2005. Okay. In fact, my mom didn't know whether she was going to be happy for me, sad for herself. When my current husband, Steve, and I, his name is Steve, when we got engaged. And then we waited, I think maybe another 2 years. What happened is that his lifestyle then, when I met him, took him to so many different countries because of his job.
Okay.
He's in the foreign service.
Okay.
So I met him for the first time through a common friend. He just came from Germany. It was his first posting. So I met him when he came to South Florida, Miami. That's where I met him. At the time, I had a boyfriend. No, trust me. It's like whatever the universe is like reserved for you, it will happen.
Exactly. And you were owed it. You were owed all these blessings. You sacrificed for so many that the universe needed to pay you back.
I like the way you put it, it's like, oh, I'm entitled to this. But I'm just so grateful. So anyway, I never planned. I told you that I was so content. I started feeling really happy with my life, with my single life. There's so many guys who wanted to date me, take me out. I was happy. I was sociable. I started learning how to be sociable, how to socialize. And I was meeting so many people that I never did before. Yeah. So it was new to me. Even dancing, even going to these clubs. You've heard about South Beach, right?
Oh, I've been to South Beach plenty of times. I've been to Miami plenty of time and have enjoyed myself.
Okay, so I mean, it's my first time to even hang out in South Beach. You've been to Mango's, right? That's one of the famous clubs there. So it's my first time to experience like going there with a girlfriend and never needing a partner because there's so many guys waiting to dance with you, right? So I never experienced that in my whole life. So this was what I call my blossoming days as a woman, like blooming, blossoming, whatever you call it. And nobody knew I was already in my 40s. I guess because I didn't act that way. What's a 40-year-old something woman should act? How should a 40-something-year-old woman act?
I just break those archetypes.
I acted the way I felt.
Yes.
If I wanted to dance, I danced. Didn't matter. It didn't matter. It was alone on the floor. I danced because the music is good. So my friends knew me already. My friends knew my number. That I never wanted to waste good dance music.
Yes.
Nobody wanted to dance. Not even going to dance. No, I'll dance alone. Forget it.
Yeah.
So in our table, whenever we would hang out with my friends, of course, most of my friends when I was a widow, they were all with their husbands or with their boyfriends, mostly husbands, husband, wife. So I became friends with this. We're still close friends even now. My gay friend who loved dancing. I mean, in fact, he was the one, my inspiration in getting back into dancing. So I was hanging out with my gay friend where all of them were hanging out with their spouses, right? But when we when we're having so much fun, other people, the onlookers, they thought I was the one with most alcohol. I don't know how I acted. I didn't act wild or anything, but they said, "What kind of drink do you give Bles?" I said, "I don't drink alcohol," because I didn't. I never drank alcohol then. I only started drinking wine when I got married to my current husband because he loves wine at dinner and things like that. But I never really, I had soda, I had whatever it was there. They were having their margaritas, but they thought I was the one who was drunk. I said, "I'm drunk on life."
Yes. Yes.
But so when we got married, oh my gosh, the first tour posting that I experienced with my current husband was Bangkok.
Okay.
Bangkok, Thailand. And I thought, oh, I got this. I went through all my journey already, the first part of the journey as a widow. So I said, I got this. Never did I imagine that situation over there would place me into an episode of depression. And when I went for counseling, because I wanted to help myself, she said, Bles, you were having a identity crisis.
Mm.
I didn't know anyone and no one knew me.
Mm.
It's the first time I went there. It's my husband's job.
Yeah.
So I follow him.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I was exposed to this other subculture, the foreign service community.
Yeah.
Where they all are in different posting every time. They drag their families, their spouses, their wives. And I heard for the first time the phrase trailing spouse. I even shared that with some of my colleagues then, that I said, I do not like the sound of that word, of that phrase, trailing spouse.
Yeah.
But so many stories. Even there, my first posting and how I recovered, he was a lot of help, but I was very proactive. Mm-hmm. Grace, I give credit to Grace. When there's a point where I cannot explain how I saved myself from some negative energy, I always turn to this answer, Grace.
Yeah.
Grace saves me. Because I can't explain it. It's like somebody tells me, an inner voice tells me, go to your computer every day. I would Google for groups. I said, I need to join groups. I need to volunteer. I need to somehow, the grace leads me to come up with these ideas. And I did. And that's the time when I started feeling better.
Okay.
So I started feeling better. I joined Bangkok Opera. I met so many friends. I made many friends. I felt like a lot of those musicians, oh my God, they're so professional. I said, I'm glad, I'm surrounded by people who are better than me, as musicians. I learned so much from them. And from that realization, I made it as one of my philosophies that I prefer all the time to be surrounded by people who I perceive are better than me. Mm. Because I learned so much. I learned so much. It's like
it pushes you.
It pushes you to lift your standards even higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they teach you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't like the feeling of, oh, I'm better than these people. It's like, what can you learn if you already perceive that?
Yeah. Yeah.
That you're better than the people around you. Mm-hmm. So, and that works for me.
Okay. Wow.
That really does. It really does.
So it made you work harder and everything. So fast forwarding then to Germany now, is this just new?
This is one of the posts. We were here before, like 6 years ago. In fact, before we came this time, we came here a year ago. We came back. This is our second posting.
Okay.
In Germany. Before this posting, we were in Seoul. Mm. Beautiful place in Seoul, South Korea. Really, really good people. I think that's what I did. I was in Korea when I did, for the first time, my homecoming concert was huge.
Wow.
Actually huge. Well, as far as the auditorium could accommodate, because there's no theater back in the provincial city. But what bothered me is that my mom, when she was alive, she has been telling me for several years that you have been performing in different cities, different countries here in the States. How come you never perform, in your own town, in your own, your own people, go back home but Mom, it's hard. Like, first of all, there's no theater. There's no theater. So what I did, this is 1 year after my mom has already passed. And I felt bad about that, but what could I do? I said, I need to fulfill that promise. I need to do that. Otherwise it will be always hanging at the back of my mind,
Yeah.
So what I did, I stayed there for 3 months. I left my husband alone in our home in Seoul. I said, he's very supportive of what I want to do. He knows my story. I said, okay. So I said, I'll be away for 3 months, 3.5 months, because I need to prepare for this performance. And sure enough, it's not only the practicing, the rehearsal of my program, but also some of the local artists that I included, because I needed to be connected, with the community. Mm-hmm. But also the practical side. I practically built a theater out of that school auditorium.
Wow.
I could not find the resource for lights. You know how you rent in the Philippines, you rent them. These people provide you with this huge high-powered, lighting, sound system with the backdrop, like where you can project they call it LED or something. I'm not very technical. Yeah, something. Yes, it's not a projector. It's one of those that would, magnify your whatever backdrop you want, when you're doing a scene.
Yes.
So it came from all the way from Manila in this huge truck, this whole equipment. And a few days before, they had to install it, and I was there directly. Wow. I was so tired, I could not believe it. So when the people saw the actual production, the actual program, they said, "Oh my gosh, how did this happen?" It's hard when there's no, but in the States, it's easy. You sign an agreement with the theater, rent the theater, they provide you the staff.
Yeah.
It's easy. It's just counting the hours.
Yeah.
They have everything. Yeah. Dressing room, and forget no air conditioning in the dressing room there.
Yeah.
So forget about that. Yeah. But I did it. Yeah, I almost lost my voice a few weeks before the day. Wow. And so those are the challenges that I faced. So fast forward. So I did that accomplishment. I mean, I did not let anybody sit on the front row in the middle. I said, place all my bouquets there, because that's my mom. That's my mom over there. Wow. Because that's where my mom always sat when I had my performances in the States. I always reserved that seat for her. And then I prayed before the program started. And I felt at peace.
Yeah.
After that, felt at peace. That was the end of 2018. Yeah. My last stage performance so far. So enter 2019, I went back for a smaller event, for a book launch. It was partly musical and then book event. Then middle of 2019, I think I had a smaller event in Seoul, right? Maybe 50, 60 people, intimate. It was good. I loved it. It was in a really old, I don't know how to describe it, like cobblestone. Is a brick stone. Yeah. With pillars of brick stone in that kind of venue. But it could only accommodate up to 50, I think. Yeah, it was. So that was the setting. And after that, what was that? Middle of 2019, towards the end of 2019, that's when the pandemic, I think, we heard about it from Wuhan. Mm-hmm. So all my future plans for 2020, everything canceled. That's why we're talking now virtually.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, canceled. Even here, I've been looking for a venue because some people want to collaborate on, some people I've met her here. There's none that is comfortable enough at this point of the pandemic to have a large gathering indoor.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's up in the air right now. So I'm focusing a lot on the writing. Yeah, writing right now. whatever I can do, drawing. I went back to touch my brush again and revisit my colors.
I forgot about that. You were an artist as well in the painting. And that makes sense because of the book and you wanted to paint the book. And oh my gosh, such a fascinating journey.
It is. I felt like I lived different lives first before before I could feel free to just do a straight path. Walk on it. Right. So
I don't know. I have to say, while hard and difficult a lot of it was, I think there's a lot of moments that you can be very proud of and be happy. And
be
thankful.
I'm very grateful. I can't stop. I can never be not ungrateful. Mm-hmm. I can never be. It's impossible.
And now with just putting a lot of your journey into these works now that you're doing, it's going to inspire a whole nother generation. And I have to tell you, sitting here and hearing your story this whole time that we've been doing this, and thank you again for sharing this amazing story with me.
Thank you.
Is going to inspire, the next generation, and you're doing that with your book. And the people, please pick up the book, because that's what I'm going to be doing after this, so I can just get more of this amazing detail. And as a filmmaker side of me, like that side of the brain is always functioning while I do this show, because I'm, again, as I told you earlier, like I want to know about our people and our culture, and I want to share these stories, and that's what I'm doing through this show, but also mining it for films, because I just want it to get an even bigger audience. So FYI, I might hit you up later on. Hey, does anybody have the rights to your story yet? Because I might know a few people, so, but this is so beautiful. And
you might be the perfect person to do that. Because you know who to cast, you have the blood.
I'm just saying, not to be a braggart or anything, but I know a few
passion. You have the passion to drive everything, and the skill.
Thank you. But I have to tell you again, hearing, especially because I'm 40 something right now, but hearing you telling me how when you're around that age, around 34, I think it was, just to when your life began again and you can finally have your story written to what you wanted, is just that really connected with me. And I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And I'm looking directly at the camera right now to you, Bles. That really manifested and connected with me, because that's part of the struggle right now. Like I actually, it's a funny thing you said foreign service, because I used to work for the State Department. That was part of my life. I was in the military for a little bit. All this on the side while pursuing my passions for the arts. I think that's and why I also do this Filipino show, because that's kind of the fabric of our story as Filipinos, where we've kind of been forced to sacrifice our passions and our dreams for the academic side, for the financial side of things, because we were scared in certain ways and or pushed in certain ways when we wanted to follow the arts. And it was like, it's an okay thing to be as a hobby, but it isn't what you do for a living, right?
And that doesn't sit right in me whenever somebody tells me, oh, so that's your hobby. I said, no, it's not a hobby.
Exactly,
it's not
right?
A hobby.
Not now.
You know what I'm saying.
Totally. And I thank you for sharing that. And because hopefully what I'm doing with what I'm doing and with what you're doing, and by writing your story for people to see, it will allow people the opportunity at a much now earlier age to see that it can be done. And you can, there's sacrifices that we make in that we do to do things, but believe in yourself, I think, is the most important thing. And I'm honored and I'm thankful for you, Bles. And I think your name is so appropriate. So
can I show you something? I forgot to tell you that on the headline at the back above the synopsis.
Yeah.
I have a thought-provoking question there. When I was writing the book, I said, this is going to be the headline. Should you spend a lifetime chasing dreams for others?
So true.
So it's just a question, and maybe I did that, but the reasons why, it's all in the book.
It's so poignant.
Maybe I was wrong, maybe I was right,
Mm.
but it's all for the readers to
Oh yeah.
reflect on. Yeah.
Oh, so good. This has been so amazing. Wow, Bless. I'm inspired and I'm thankful and I'm honored, and I'm so appreciative of you sharing your story. My very last question before we get completed with this is that I always ask, because this show's a nerd celebration, because it was headquartered out of the Nerds of Color, which is another group that I'm with as a nerd, and you're a card-carrying nerd that you said yourself, right? So I'm a nerd. So my final nerd.
My daughters called me nerd.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. I think nerds rule the world. That's what we're all about.
They said, Mom, you did projects when you were a student, a young student, even when you were not being asked to do that.
Yeah.
I said, well, I wanted to.
So my final nerd question that we always ask is, if you were to give a TED style talk, on anything, what nerdy subject or what could you give a TED talk on that you're so passionate about and so nerdy about? And I'm going to give you some disqualifiers, because we already know this about you. I already know that you love music and opera and writing and poetry and painting. You can't use those. I want something different. I want something nobody else knows. Like, I know this thing about dogs or about cats, or just something. It could be a cooking. I don't know. What is something that no one really knows that you know a lot about that you could give a TED style talk on?
Oh my goodness. Motherhood.
Okay.
And single parenthood, in fact, to qualify that.
I can, with everything you've gone through and everything we've learned the past couple of hours, I definitely think you could give an amazing conversation about that.
Yes,
Bless.
yes.
Thank you.
How to not, underneath that, there's a subtitle already. I can see how to not lose connection with your child.
Yeah.
With your teenager.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so honored by this conversation. Bless. Now with that being said, the very final thing is, I'm going to have the information in the description below, but for those that are just the audio listeners, how can they follow you? What are some of your socials, your websites? Again, I will have it in the description for the people that are watching this, but for those that are just listening via audio, how can they follow you and reach out to you?
Sure. I'm on Facebook as Bles Chavez-Bernstein. I'm on Instagram as Bles Singing Poet. I'm on LinkedIn as Bles Chavez-Bernstein, an artist. And what else? I have my website, my personal website, and I write articles there, essays and reflections. I try to update it every now and then. Maybe not as often as I want to. It's www.blessingingpoet.com.
Yes.
There's a lot of essays there, a lot of reflective, articles.
I'm definitely going to check it out. I am going to be giving you all the follows. I'm going to be ordering your book very shortly.
Thank you so much.
And once that second book comes out, Bless, I would love to have you back on to talk about that.
I'm hoping that maybe early, I'm shooting for the stars, but maybe early spring next year, or who knows, if I'm delayed, maybe summer.
Okay.
But
well, let's manifest that into the universe. I want it to happen, and let's have you back. Have you back on the ShoPowSho talking with me.
It's an honor. I mean, I'm so happy to meet you, Kuya P. I feel connected with you. You're just a warm soul and very inspired. Really good energy.
Thank you. Salamat. Salamat. I know very little Tagalog, but what I do know is I know salamat. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat.
Mahal kita. I love you. You're amazing. Thank you for this vibe, this energy, this gift of you, and sharing this story of you, because it's going to inspire. It's inspired me. It's going to inspire the people watching, the people listening, and so my little daughter as well. That's also why I did this, is for her to see these stories and know these stories. And you are the Madrigma, the amazing Mandarigma, that amazing warrior female spirit that is just, I love it so much.
Before I forget, Kuya
Yes.
P, before you sign off,
Yes.
can I just show this, because I'm giving it as a gift?
Okay.
My first poetry collection. I'm giving it to anybody. Of course, they need to give me their mailing address, right? As long as my supplies last, I still have enough. Anybody that buys the book and post a review on Amazon and Google, I will mail this as a gift, free.
Beautiful.
My first poetry collection. Okay. And are you into poetry too?
Always. I used to actually freestyle rap a little bit, but it started with poetry but it was poetry, and then it got into rapping and all of that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because the rhythm.
Exactly.
It's the rhythm and the flow. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. It's all math, music, lyrics.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So everybody, please do that. Order her book, write a review, get a copy of her poetry book, give her all the follows. Bless, you are so blessed. And I'm so happy to just see that all of your sacrifice, all of this journey, the universe paid it back in spades, and you're living your best and true life. And I wish you nothing but the best. I can't wait for the second book. I want to have you back. I want the world to be cured so I can hear your amazing voice. I want to do that as well. I would love to hear you sing and perform. You're such an amazing soul, and I can't thank you enough for sharing your story with me.
I'm on YouTube. Check some of my singing on YouTube.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Bles Chavez-Bernstein. I am Kuya P. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at The Legend Kuya P. Of course, at The Nerds of Color and at ShoPowSho and at the NRW and at New Release Wednesday, where nerds rule the world. This has been another amazing episode of ShoPowSho. Bles Chavez-Bernstein. Give her all the follows. Give her all the love. Mahal kita. Salamat. We are out of here until the next time.
Mahal kita. Salamat, Kuya P.
Thank you so much. All right.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The hard knock life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah. Pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this. This is the hard knock life, but not the chica kind. More like the people in the world seeking perspectives with a different line. The kids who share the interest together with a similar kind. When they said Don Glover for Spider-Man, they didn't mind. The activists, directors, comments, and the lectures. Fanboys, professional artists, and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC in full color, you see me? The hard knock life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah. Pop culture with a different perspective.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bles Chavez-Bernstein. I'm an artist, a poet, an author, and a soprano. I'm so excited to be able to talk with Kuya P, because I have seen several episodes of ShoPowSho, and it's really exciting. So I'm ready for Kuya P. Hi, everyone. I'm Bles Chavez-Bernstein, and I'm Filipino. My parents were both Filipinos. They're both deceased. My Filipino heritage is one of the most influential thing that made me who I am today. So I am blessed. I feel lucky that my heritage is Filipino.